Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the FPV News, where me and Blunty are going to tell you all the new developments in the world of FPV. Hey, Blunty.
Hey, Joshua. How's it going today?
Going good. Going good. I'm super excited. Our first show with an actual paid sponsor. Yeah. We're going to tell you more about the sponsor later in the show. I guess we'll drop the name. The sponsor is Keto Chow. And if you're wondering why the hell you did Keto Chow sponsor Bardwell's blog, there's actually an FPV-related tie-in that we'll tell you about more later. But we're going to start with the FPV news. As always, we are going to start with public service announcements. Little things that, if they affect you, are a big freaking deal, but may not affect everybody. So we don't call them news. What's the first one, Blunty?
The first one is we just want to give everybody kind of a heads up for the Radiomaster Boxer. Some people have reported issues with the Radiomaster Boxer JR Bay. That's the module bay in the back, if you don't know, is having issues with some of the modules actually snapping into the bay. Seems like maybe it's not quite deep enough and the side snaps can't snap in on some of the full-size modules.
Yeah. It's really, I noticed this the first time I put my Boxer, my Ghost module into my Boxer. I had the damnedest time getting it to fit, and I wasn't sure if it was just me or, if it was my radio or wider spread pattern. Because, of course, my other modules, all of my other JR modules, Crossfire, Happy model, they all fit fine. It was just the Ghost module. And, but it turns out that Radiomaster has acknowledged that, well, whatever the situation, or whoever's fault it is, Radiomaster said that they have actually changed their tooling slightly. So I don't know how to tell if you're getting like the new tooling or the old, but they did make the dimensions of the JR base slightly different in response to this. So I don't know, Blunty. I wish we had more detail. Like, I don't think there's a consistent pattern of like which modules do and don't fit, because I think that there's a little bit of variance in the cases, and I don't think it's consistent.
Yeah, we haven't received very many reports. I think we've only gotten one direct report from a user. But like we said, Radiomaster at least acknowledged they were changing the tooling for those bays. So yeah, if you run into this, at least you'll know why your module doesn't quite fit, and you can probably reach out to Radiomaster with that issue. Yeah,
Radiomaster hasn't made any official announcement, but I suspect that if you run into this issue and you contact them, they will send you a different backplate for your Boxer and just take care of you. That sounds like the kind of thing they would do, but obviously I can't make promises for them. Ace at FPV had an issue with the JR Bay bending the pins. I did have an issue when I first got my Boxer with getting the pins in the JR Bay to line up perfectly. I had to kind of slightly bend them to the side to get them to line up right. And once again, I thought, oh, well, maybe this is just me, and sorted it out, but maybe it wasn't just me.
All right.
It's always tough. I know you're all writing because you're ready to go on to the next story. It's always tough because, like, as a reviewer, when I get something and maybe there's a little thing that's wrong with it, I'm like, should I like blow this up in the review? And then I'm like, well, maybe it was just me. I don't want to make too big of a deal out of it. It's a tough call.
Definitely.
Well, anyway, we try to make it right here on the news months later.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we've got a different kind of PSA. So for the people who don't know, I've been helping you on Sundays and Mondays with your Q&A streams. I'm sort of filling a producer role where I help you queue up questions, and sometimes I chime in with some extra info, things like that. But one of those things we kind of drew from the last stream we did yesterday was we were wondering if people were crazy, or did half the chat, half the chat was saying 4S batteries are cheaper than 6S batteries, like if you go equivalent. I recommended to a person who was new to the hobby, doesn't have any batteries, and I said, you may as well just get 6S. You're going to end up there. And people were like, no, 4S is cheaper. And I was like, you're nuts. Because I know I've bought like a 1,000 milliamp hour 6S for like $22-23, and that's about the same price as a 1,300 milliamp hour 4S, about the equivalent watt hours. It turns out I'm wrong on 2 counts.
Yeah.
So, after the live stream, you and I sat there and we're like, "Are we crazy?" So, I know Race Day Quad says a 1050 milliamp hour 6S, $29. That's WTF. That's high. I mean, that's high. Here's a 1,000 milliamp hour, $28. Okay. Whereas a 1,300 milliamp hour 4S, $20. And we did a little more looking at different brands, Blunty. And I think the 6S's were like about 26, and the 4S is as low as 17.
Yeah, it seemed in most cases when we were comparing across the same manufacturer, there was a good split there where it was like, $5 to $7, maybe even more in a couple cases, between those for equivalent watt hours, right? And so, yeah, we weren't really sure why. Are more people buying 6S, so the 4S are in stock and they're just trying to move 4S batteries, or there's something going on when you need more cells, and is there something about building them that's harder for 6S currently? We don't really have a good answer for you, but we did want to, kind of PSA and say, hey, we looked into this, and just so you know, 4S are actually cheaper than 6S by a reasonable margin. Like, it's enough where you could buy, 2.5, if 2.5 batteries would buy you an extra battery sort of thing,
Here we go. Thank you to Brian Lewis in the Discord. Speedy Pizza, 6S 1200, 100C, $22.
There you go.
Okay, I'm not
4S.
Wait, what's that?
What is their 4S? Do they make a 4S?
I don't think they make one.
Okay.
I don't think they make one. It's only a 600 mAh, 1200 mAh, 1550. That's pretty comparable. $20, same price, roughly the same price.
22 versus 20, pretty close.
And that's what my memory was. That you could get a 6S for about, if you bought a cheap one, for about 22, 23, and a 4S for about 20. But there's definitely, we didn't look very hard at all and found half decent 4S for 17, 18 bucks. And we couldn't find a single last night we didn't find a single 6S for less than 25, 26 bucks. Here's the Speedy Pizza for 22. So I was wrong, at least today. I swear to God this wasn't true in the past. But at least today, 4S are noticeably cheaper than 6S, and that is absolutely a reason why a new person might buy 4S. So there you go.
Absolutely.
Okay. Roborito says the 6S 1050 equivalent is $1,575, not $1,300. I don't want to sit here and do math, but in my mind, 6S 1,000 and 4S 1,300 are almost the same. Am I wrong? I mean, you've probably done the math right.
It'd be 50% more, right? Or is it 33%?
It does make sense.
50%
Maybe I'm
more,
misremembering. Yeah. Maybe I should not go in my mind. Maybe I should actually do the math. We always used to fly 4S, and all the batteries were like 1,500 if you were a little heavy and 1,300 if you were a little light. Yeah. And I remember that one of them was equivalent to 1,000. Maybe it was the 1,500. And
I think it's the 15. Yeah.
Yeah. Roborito has showed the math and is correct. It's $1,575. Okay. Anyway, 4S is cheaper, and I was wrong. So that's news because I'm so seldom wrong.
I was going to say, at least in many cases, so if you happen to find the Speedy Pizzas for pretty close, that's great. But just so you know, while you're looking, if you're comparing or trying to get in or any of those things, you might often find those batteries for cheaper.
Yeah, okay. I'm still going to fly 6S, though. Because of sunk cost fallacy. All right, we got one more PSA.
Yes, one more PSA. Seems to be affecting a fairly small number of users, but a lot of people are picking up the HDZero goggles. So we wanted to let you know about an HDZero optics issue that they have officially taken knowledge of, and Carl has put an announcement out about. Carl says there are about 30 complaints about the loose lens of the HDZero goggle. And basically what happens is the eye hole, like the optic hole, for the lens is held in, can move around basically when you move your head. So if you tilted your head, you'll see the optic surrounding move around. It'll
shift. Oh.
Yeah.
You mean that? You mean that circle that everybody made a big deal out of when the HDOs first came out?
Yes.
And they were like, "Oh, I don't like it. Looks like I'm looking down a toilet paper tube or whatever."
Yeah. So
now the toilet paper tube is going like this.
Yeah, if you look up and down, that shifts around a little bit. It seems to have broken free in a couple goggle cases. And then I also saw one where the bottom sliders, one of them, like the IPD or the focus sliders, one of them was loose enough to rattle around, and that seems like to be attached to a similar issue. So Carl is saying there's 30 reports of these so far, and we believe there's been at least 3,000 HDZero goggles sold. That would be my guess. I'm not sure what official numbers are. I don't think we have any. But if that's the case, that's 1% at least reported that they're saying. So that's not too bad. I think we've seen other hardware have similar numbers like that for issues, especially one this small where they say, like, if you're not shaking your head up and down, if you're flying normally, you're not going to see that little circle shaking around. It's really if you're moving up and down or you're doing something with your goggles. But obviously it is not something they want to have in the goggles, and they're working with their optics supplier to fix it. It does seem like it's a little more complicated, like the statement says, with their optics supplier, because of where the repair centers are and how difficult the optics are to open and be cleaned up. So they're working on a process to do that, to make sure that they can get it taken care of. But they are saying if you want to ship your goggles to them now, as soon as they get it fixed, you'll get them back sooner. They're doing the best they can to get this fixed.
Yeah. Good on Carl. As H-Rolls in the Discord says, isn't this where Carl is awesome? Quote, I do understand the goggles like a big investment, and I will take care of it. That's how you have integrity and you take care of your customers. Of course, talk is cheap. Obviously, actions count. HDZero has stood behind their products in the past. I hope that they do again. But it's great to hear statements like this from Carl, and I'm sure he means it. So if you are one of those quote-unquote 30 people, do you believe that number, Blunty? I mean, I guess we have no basis to not believe it.
Yeah. I believe we got 3 different people communicating with us directly. I believe that's the case. There were 2 or 3. I think it was 3 with this issue. So, it's hard to know.
Yeah, of course. That would mean that 1 out of 10 people who have this problem contacted us.
I will say when I asked in the Discord, the HDZero group, none of our users in the Discord had seen this issue yet. Also, our early word was, Carl didn't confirm this, but early word was this is only batch 2 goggles. However, it's not clear because somebody on Facebook seemed to suggest they had it early enough to get batch 1 and we're still seeing this. But just so everybody knows, this is something to keep an eye out for if you have it and you're not crazy. It's not an intended thing. So,
and if it happens to you, reach out and HDZero will take care of you. I will say some people have said, oh, I contacted HDZero support and I was asking about when my order would ship, and they didn't email me back promptly. And they were like, HDZero is supposed to have such good support, but they can't even. And I'm like, Like, they had a ton of orders. They were super overworked, and everybody was bombarding them with, when will my order ship? When will my order ship? I wouldn't blame them if they just were like, no, we're just throwing those in the bin. They'll ship when they ship. You'll know when they ship because you'll get the shipping notification. So I don't think that's representative of how they actually handle real problems.
I would say, though, the thing they've been doing, which I think they could do more or even post actively on the website every day, is what order number is shipping next. I think, because that's what people seem very excited to see, like, oh, this number is shipping now. That means I'm closer to my number, and they at least have some, understanding of where they're at in the process.
That could be cool, yeah.
But they've been doing that a few times now. So.
It's Not Sam points out, Carl said the people who recently got goggles with a batch 1 sticker had the incorrect sticker. They were still batch 2 goggles. So that may explain how someone who, quote unquote, had batch 1 had this problem.
Interesting.
I mean, they ran out of batch 1 months ago, didn't they? Everybody who's getting goggles now is batch 2.
Yeah, I think it was around the first of the year, but I'm not entirely sure when that happened.
All right. Okay. I am so happy. That's our PSAs, right? No, yeah. I messed up the title. I didn't do that.
That's right.
No, this is our first story. I did mess up the title. Never mind. I messed up the hosting. So much for our PSAs. On to our actual news stories. Another one about HDZero. That DJI check's not gonna go through. Sorry. Go ahead.
Another one about HDZero. So, in other HDZero issue news, we had spoken previously about some issues with analog in the new firmware for the HDZero goggles. That was, I believe, the Rev 4.4. And there were ways to fix it, but basically the analog input was messed up. And it turns out also the 1080p 30 DVR was buggy. So they've released a new firmware update. This was 5 days ago-ish right now. But yeah, 4.13, 2023 is out. And they've added NTSC PAL camera selection. They fixed the DVR issue. They fixed the analog issue and done a couple other things here. One thing to note is that people are judging the 1080p 60 or 1080p 30 mode in the HDZero goggles currently. However, that is not displaying at 1080. That is displaying at 720 live currently. So if you're flying that and you're judging the picture quality, you're only getting 720.
Do you mean in the goggles or via the HDMI out? That's...
Yeah. If you look at the known bug for this release, the live view is still 720p for 1080p 30 mode, while its DVR is 1080p 60. We are optimizing the code for 1080p live view.
I'm sorry. What's the point of having... Is this a stupid question? What's the point of having 1080p if you don't see 1080p in the goggles? Are you sure
DVR,
about that?
But it's HDZero. I mean, it says literally in the post that we have here, if you want to pull that back up. Yeah.
I mean, I see it. I just don't believe it.
I'm not sure why he would disparage 1080p 30 if that wasn't correct.
The live view that's what it says. When I read that sentence, my brain translated that to HDMI output. That for some reason they were showing 1080p 30 in the goggles, but they were only outputting 720p by HDMI. But no, it clearly says live view. Okay, so realistically, 1080p isn't released yet.
That would be my understanding of this, yeah.
Okay. How are they saving it to the DVR, which is more resource intensive, I think?
Well, isn't it on the VTX? Is this maybe local DVR on the VTX? That's what I would assume. Or is he talking about on the goggle?
HDZero doesn't have DVR on the VTX.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then I have no idea. It must be
I
a
have no
processing
idea.
issue or a code bug or something. I mean, it says it's a bug, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But it used to have. I feel like I'm in crazy land here. It used to have 1080p in the goggles, right?
I don't know. I would assume from this statement it didn't, but I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe
that's pretty weird. That's pretty
to
weird.
say we are still optimizing the code for 1080p live view seems like either it was there and it was bad and they took it down, or it wasn't working. You know what I mean? Or
that's what it seems like. Okay. Well, I guess in theory, I mean, I'm glad I haven't made a video about 1080 yet. I was kind of felt like, oh, I should rush to do that, and it turns out it's kind of not ready for prime time yet. It's not Sam thinks that they tested 1080p 30 and it looked better than 720 and was definitely 30 FPS. But Sam, I wonder if you've tested this new firmware.
Well, the DVR definitely was 1080. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
But the live view was only 720. So.
Alrighty. Keep working, HDZero. So they're in a little bit of a rough spot right now, but big product release with a lot of new customers. I guess that sort of stands to reason, and I'm rooting for 'em.
Yeah.
I'm like gonna message Ryan Quellet and confirm that. I just feel like that's so weird. Go ahead.
All right.
Meanwhile, you go on with the next story. Hang on, let me do the title.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, yeah.
All right. Next up, we're going to do, we talk about more toroidal prop testing. If anybody was not tired of the toroidal prop situation.
No.
This video,
we do have something from Chris Rosser. He has some testing of some designs here, going through his, rigorous process that he normally does to see what he thinks about, all the information. And these are manufacturing test samples that he's received of these props. So
yeah, very cool. He's got a lot of information here. We've got his video linked in the video description. But since this is the news, we'll summarize it just a bit. Are toroidal props quieter than standard props? No. However, the character of the sound is different in a way that might make them less noticeable. Like they're more of a whoosh and less of a whine. Do they make more thrust? It seems like they made similar thrust, Blunty. Is that? I think that's one of the less clear ones.
One of them made similar thrust.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The others made less thrust. So I think he thought that this, I think it was the iFlight F5, was specifically designed to emulate the thrust of a typical 3-blade prop.
Well, iFlight F5 is our typical 3-blade prop.
Oh, sorry, the Willow V7 2-loop then. No? Which color is the purple one? The striking FPV 3-loop. There we go. Thank you. So they make less thrust, except for one of them, which made the same thrust. They were less efficient, and they were heavier and less responsive. Which, yeah, I was glad to see somebody like Chris finally bring an analytical mind to this, because I've seen people all over Facebook making all kinds of wacky, and YouTube making all kinds of wacky claims. They make more thrust. They're so good. And I bitched about this on the live stream, that like you make a video that just says, it's the best thing ever, and everybody will watch the video. But yeah, the main reason you would choose these props would be if you absolutely needed them to be a little bit less noticeable, not even quieter, but you're giving up a lot to get them. He never even talked about durability. God, the durability's got to be terrible. So not interesting, not actually a big deal.
Yeah, at least with current designs and production, it does not seem to be what we want. So it's possible in the future they could find a solution. And, like you said, if you're in certain situations, I would imagine that some people might want to use them just for the different sound profiles, right? If we figure that, as that stuff kind of gets figured out better.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of leads us into the next segment.
hang on one second. Before you do that, I want to acknowledge this comment from Destructo, who says, why would you do throttle versus thrust instead of power versus thrust? Destructo, I think that maybe we're not talking about the same thing. Chris Rosser did mechanical power versus thrust. However,
it's just two different charts.
Which chart is he talking about?
He has a throttle and a power versus thrust.
Oh, gotcha. Both. He did both. So I would say that anybody who has a question about Chris Rosser's methodology, and if you look at a screenshot from Chris Rosser's video and go, idiot, why would you do it like that? Please go watch the video. Chris Rosser is his methodology is extremely thoroughly thought out, and he probably had a good reason. You may not agree with it, but at least watch the video, and you probably find out. He may convince you that he did it right. So, yeah. Give him the benefit of the doubt, please. Go ahead, Blunty. Sorry.
Yeah, but that brings us into the next prop video we've got for you, which is by the Action Lab. And there's some good and bad things about this video, but it's definitely, I think, worth discussing the information that he talks about in this video. So he discusses Zipline's silent propellers, and he goes through a personal design he made out of 3D printing, which is real rough.
Real rough.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, kudos on having made it at all.
Yeah, but I think the important part here is really not the thing he designed, but more the concepts that he discusses when he talks about where propeller tips are located and the sound design that they create. And something he does here is uses like out-of-the-box props, like props you would use for the first testing is his 3D printed stuff, but he also uses out-of-the-box props that you would use for FPV wings or for other small drones. And then he compares positioning of those propellers like stacked on top of each other. So like, let's find a good spot here. So if we go to like 420, somewhere in there. I mean, it's the spot.
Okay.
So you'll see here he's comparing these closer props with the farther apart props here.
I see. So he's got a 4-blade prop, but in one they're at 90 degrees and one they're like at 30 degrees.
Right. And then basically
he's looking at the RPM and the efficiency.
Right. And also sound, So what he's found is you have to run them faster to get the same amount of thrust, but it still effectively has a lower audible noise volume to people if the propeller tips are closer together.
Interesting. Yeah.
If you want to play, I was going to say that if you back up like 5 seconds there and then turn on the audio, we can hear just that comparison.
And this one's at...
Is that far enough or go further?
10,000 RPM.
Yeah, just a second. He'll
10,200 RPM. So they're really close to the same RPM. Okay, let's listen to both of their sounds.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. There's an overtone that's missing from the 2-blade one, or the closer blade one. Interesting.
Yeah, something else he observes here, and I think is interesting to consider, is he talks about the things that happen on top and bottom and sideways on the propeller sound as well. He says on a lot of these designs, it seems like the Zipline design does much better forward. So all the sound it throws ahead of it is better than the sound it throws behind it. And so depending on how you position them, you might need to do pushers or design drones in specific ways to take advantage of that. But yeah, I think it's interesting testing that, would be cool to think about when you're designing props in the future.
Yeah. Cool Cat doesn't think his measurement is very scientific. I'll say that that's a tough one. I think that people shouldn't be afraid to do scientific experiments poorly, as long as they are clear about the limitations of the experiment. What pisses me off is when people do a bad scientific experiment and then act like it's a good one and draw incorrect conclusions. But if you do a bad science experiment, you can still get some useful information out of it.
I mean, you can hear the difference between those two.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's not hard. I mean, I don't like you're expecting something 8 levels above what's needed to show the difference. This isn't a scientific testing video. This is hey, here's an observational difference between changes in propeller locations.
Exactly.
And then you go and do with that what you want. It's not meant to put out data for a scientific paper. You know?
Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, it's time. It's time for our first sponsor read. And we're gonna tell you why today's sponsor is Keto Chow, but first I'm gonna do an ad read. All right, here we go. I'll try to be as smooth as Linus, but I probably won't be. Keto Chow is a nutrient-dense, low-sugar, low-carb meal replacement shake. It was made for people on a keto diet, but it's suitable for anyone looking for a mix of protein, vitamins, and minerals, but with limited sugar. Keto Chow comes in over 30 flavors. Well, let's get some of those flavors up here. Comes in over 30 flavors, including classics like chocolate, peanut butter, and vanilla, with some more specialized flavors like pistachio, snickerdoodle, and caramel macchiato. Most people mix it up like a shake with water and heavy cream, but you can use melted butter, coconut oil, avocado oil, or any other fat that you like. A single shake mixes up in about 30 seconds. You can store them in the fridge for up to 6 days. So they're great for people who don't have time to make elaborate meals 3 times a day. If you want to know more about what's in a keto shake, good news, the recipe is open source. The recipe is open source, and you can read more about it at the link in the video description, ketochow.xyz/ref/FPV news. And that link will also give you 34% off a first-time order of the starter kits. So there's the ad read. We fulfilled our contractual obligation. I want to tell the people why we're doing a sponsorship with Keto Chow, because I didn't want to do a sponsorship with an FPV company where it might seem like I was getting influenced. But the founder of Keto Chow is actually an FPV pilot. And I didn't know this. And I was chatting with him on Discord about some problem. And he was like, hey, thank you for helping me with my problem. Listen, have you ever heard of Keto Chow? I was like, yes, my wife does keto and she buys Keto Chow. He's like, I invented that company. And I was like, no shit. So Keto Chow is FPV adjacent, if that matters to you. Now I've had like 1 or 2 Keto Chow shakes, but I don't really eat keto. My wife does. She's eaten a ton of them. But Blunty, you actually tried one before we accepted the sponsorship.
Yeah, they sent me a box of the big starter kit so I could see, if I liked it and what it was. I actually do keto. For people who don't know, I've been on keto for around 4 to 6 weeks at this point on this round, but I did an 8-month stint 3 years ago. It helped me lose a lot of weight initially. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big fan of keto and keto flavors and stuff. And it can be, for anybody who's been on keto, the reason I originally left keto after that 8-month period was because I was just so tired of eating keto food. And for anybody who's been on keto, you kind of get to a point where you're sort of drowning in oil and butter and fat, is what it feels like anyway. And I love pounds of bacon, but sometimes it's hard to eat another pound of bacon after you've been doing it for 8 months. Yeah. Something I've noticed with these Keto Chow flavors is they're completely different from the normal palette you would get, trying to find something keto-ish. And the other thing I'll mention is that I did enjoy most of these flavors. I would push you to the specialized flavors. I think the specialized flavors were made by different groups of people. At least some of them were made by different fans of Keto Chow that made their own recipes. For instance, like the caramel macchiato. That was a great flavor. I think it's much better than the basic chocolate or peanut butter flavors. So when you're looking around, definitely check out those specialized flavors too.
I think that, and by the way, wait, before I go on, we keep saying keto, 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 as if everyone in the world knows what keto is. Sure. But there's probably some people watching who are like, what the hell is keto? You want to do a keto in a nutshell?
Sure. Keto is just a low carbohydrate diet, essentially. So your goal is to cut down your carbohydrate count every day, eventually getting to, most people do somewhere from a 15 to a 50 gram carbohydrate a day. And once you've done that for a certain amount of time, your body will run out of carbohydrates essentially to burn, and will shift to burning fat in what's called ketosis. Mm-hmm. So once you're in this fat burning mode in ketosis, then you can continue to eat this low carb diet, and your body will burn extra fat than it would additionally. You're still eating low calorie, but it also makes it much much easier to eat low calorie, at least in my experience with keto, because you're eating foods that don't make you crave more of those foods.
Yeah, and of course we're not doctors or nutritionists, but there are some people who have argued that sugar acts almost like an opiate in your brain, that your brain craves and your body craves sugar, and that by cutting sugars and carbohydrates out, that you end up eating better. You end up eating a lot more protein and a lot more fat, though, and a lot of people, they're tired of eating another pound of bacon, and they're like, I need variety. And something like these keto shakes are a way to get that variety. So
yeah, I'll just mention too. This is just off the cuff or whatever, but something I noticed when I was using these is some people, you can use them 3 times a day, so you're getting like those like 550 calorie meals or so, like 3 times a day. But the way I've been using them is just once a day as a snack. So instead of me going and wanting some other snack or something to eat, I could just have one of these in the fridge, and then it's kind of easy to grab and drink half of. And
do you like mix up 3 or 4 of them and keep them in the fridge, or do you just make them as you need them?
Yeah, you need to make them ahead of time for anybody. I mean, I don't want to get too deep in it, but you need to make them ahead of time, because you need a chance for it to cool once you've made them and everything's emulsified. They taste much better, I would say, overnight.
Like overnight in the fridge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the sponsor. Keto Chow, if you're interested in trying a keto diet or just eating a lower carb, lower sugar food that still tastes good, I'm going to say from personal experience, my wife has strong preferences. She loves certain flavors. She adores the snickerdoodle. He offered to send us some more samples as part of the sponsorship. And I was like, do you want them? And she's like, I want the snickerdoodle. That's all I want. And he's like, he's got 5 new flavors. And she's like, I want the snickerdoodle. I don't care. So she just likes the snickerdoodle, but you could probably find a flavor you like. And use that link, ketochow.xyz, because that's how he'll know if this sponsorship was worth buying. So, don't just go to the store and buy it. Use the link. Okay. That's our sponsorship. Yay, we did it. We sold out.
All right.
How does it feel? Chris B wants to remind us, he's in the Discord, that the chow in Keto Chow is a play on Bachelor Chow from Futurama, which, I mean, there's a Futurama tie-in. What more do you want?
Right.
Okay, let's get on with the news. Let's see here. Right. What's next, Blunty?
Next up, we've got the cinematic of the week. And this is
nice.
a pretty neat cinematic. This isn't necessarily the all-time amazing cinematic that we would normally show, but I think this is a little bit of a different piece of footage. I haven't seen too much stuff like this, and I wanted to shout out a cool creator.
Okay.
This is called FPV at the Skatepark.
Oh no! I'm getting copy struck. Sorry, I accidentally. Go.
And flew around with a Runcam Thumb Pro 4K and took some cool shots at the skate park.
Yeah, sorry about that, Blunty. I clicked on the link to prepare and it started playing. This is Lesha Rodin. Lesha. I don't know. Only 527 subscribers. As always, we're going to play just enough of the video to kind of whet your appetite, but we don't want to take clicks. We don't want to take views from the creator, so there's a link in the video description to the whole video, and we highly encourage you to go give some love to the creator of the video. Oh, that's some good chasing. Oh, wow. That is nice and tight. And the pilot handled that, overtake really well. Woo, this person is a good pilot.
Yeah, a lot of these shots remind me of something you would be attempting to get with another person on a skateboard riding next to them with a camera,
Yeah.
But you're sort of achieving it without having that limitation, and also being able to get much closer to tricks like that, right? Like you're not afraid of hitting the drone, because it's a drone and not a person.
Speaking of hitting the drone, it makes me wonder if the pilot's also a skater, so they have an eye for how skate videographers, frame the shot.
Right.
It almost doesn't look like it's a drone pilot framing the shots as much as it is another skateboarder, or these aren't skateboards technically.
Yeah, this is a tool to use to capture.
Yeah. This is great. This is really great. There's so many great creators out there doing content like this that's just mind-blowing, and only have 500 subscribers, deserve a lot more. Wow. Oh, this guy is good. Wow. I almost think that I know it isn't, but it almost feels like this is a 360 cam. The way that they're getting some of the framing so perfect,
Right.
It makes me
Right.
feel like they're sort of cheating by using a 360 cam. That's
I think
incredible.
This is all day at the skate park, if not multiple days, sort of like pop the clips together sort of thing. But yeah, very cool shots.
Yeah. All right. Well, I kind of want to keep watching it, but I'm going to live up to my promise. I'm not going to show you any more. If you want to see more, head on over there. Watch the whole thing on Lesha Rodin's channel. Thank you for submitting that.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, that was our cinematic. We've also got some events that we want to tell you about. Things that are happening in the real world that you can go to. Ooh. How about that?
And the first one we've got is called Beast of the East. This is in Port Jefferson Station, New York, on June 3rd, 2023. And we wanted to let you know about this. It's a summer barbecue kickoff. They got a bando contest where they're playing drone, best trick contest, and they got a product pinata where you can win some products.
Nice.
So pretty cool
Let's see.
stuff. So if you're, it's free
Free
entry for
entry.
people, and yeah, $10
Does that include
for barbecue.
pilots? Oh, sorry,
I
Blunty.
believe so. Yeah,
Wow.
free flying and everything. They're just having people come out and buy some barbecue if you'd like it and have a good time.
So it's basically just a fly day with barbecue you can buy. Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Let's go to Pachogue Road at Port Jefferson, New York.
Yeah, so if you're up in that area, give it a shot.
Yeah, awesome. And we've got one more. This one is near and dear to me. It's being held by my friend Ken Herron. And he does this every year. It's called Mindfield. And it is at this location in Brownsville, Tennessee. It will be August. Wait, come back with the date. August 19th.
19th
Yeah.
and the 20th.
Yeah. And if you take a look, way to go, Ken. That's amazing. Look at him up there on this thing flying his drone. How would you like to fly your drone, whether FPV or otherwise, around this freaking location? Man, I can tell you from Ken's experience, there are wasps in that little high up thing, little cabin up there.
Pretty cool stuff. Parking
yeah.
for RVs and cars, if people don't know. Free Wi-Fi and restrooms. There's food available on site. And there's local hotels and fields available for camping. You get a free raffle when you enter. And you just got to go register to enter. It's a free event.
Yeah, Ken he really is passionate about this event. He has done it several years. It's his birthday party also. It's also Ken's birthday, is I think what. But he's so passionate about it and so enthusiastic to get people to go. So if you are nearby to Brownsville, Tennessee in that time, head on by. There's really no reason not to. Doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
And we've got a link to that video where Ken interviews Billy Tripp, the artist who's created that whole site is just some artist who likes big metal sculptures and just keeps collecting things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anybody who has an event that we haven't talked about and that you want to get on the FPV news, don't forget to email news@fpvknowitall.com with that or any other news submissions, and we'll be happy to include them on the news.
Yeah. One IFPV asks, does Ken bring local politicians to that event? That is correct. He brings out like the mayor of Brownsville, the chief of police. People come out, they fly. It's a good time. There's a lot of I went last year. There were so many people flying the Potato DJI FPV drone. I was like, this is where they all went.
Yeah, it seems like that's the crossover for his audience, right? Like,
yeah.
Is like, yeah, that's that side of things. But yeah, that's interesting to see. I know a lot of people bought that Potato to get into FPV.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's where they are. Okay. Then next up, we're going to go into It's Barely News. But before we do that, we have to read the Super Chats. We don't have any Super Chats, but normally that would mean I would glare at you for 30 seconds. But we got sponsored today, so I'm not even mad.
All right.
We're just going to go on.
Cool. So moving on to It's Barely News. The end of the show, as always, where we've got a few stories that didn't fit in the main list, but we wanted to tell you about anyway. And first up, we've got a viral hovercraft that's been going around Twitter and the internet space. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it because it's been going around everywhere.
The Dickens. Okay.
This guy built a little hovercraft that he can ride around that fills these little bags with air and then pushes on the ground. And he can zoom around.
How is it propelled?
Fans. He's got 2 fans on the back pointing backwards. And then it has differential. Basically, he hits buttons to do differential thrust. But Tom Scott made a video about this to dive in a little more about it.
Oh, shoot.
I went through and showed the creator. And the creator talks a little bit about how he makes it and what it's made out of. And then Tom Scott gets to ride it and give it a shot.
It's basically just plastic bags, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. Like a vinyl, or whatever, plastic.
Yeah.
And then he also shows a two bag version, I guess you would call it. That's like a motorbike sort of thing that he's designing as well. So.
Oh, let's see here. Oh, wow, this is a whole video. You know, Tom Scott always, in my mind, will be like a 22-year-old kid. I can see he is not a 22-year-old kid anymore. He still looks to me like 22-year-old Tom Scott. We're all getting older, Blunty.
That's true.
Yeah, I guess that's better than the alternative.
We're all getting younger?
No, dying. Well, have you got some Benjamin Button thing going on that I don't know about?
No, I just think the opposite of getting older is getting younger. Okay.
Okay. I can understand. You got Chaircasters on there. That's delightful. That's so delightful. Oh my goodness. It's driving it around. How about that?
Yeah, so if you want to know the story behind the viral video and check out how this stuff works, we've got that video for you down in the show notes.
It's like
another cool video from Tom Scott where he goes and checks out all kinds of stuff.
All right. I'm just sitting here watching this video with glee while Tom Scott spins around in circles. What a gem. What a treasure.
Yeah.
What a treasure. Okay, the last story is please stop sharing this. It's fake.
Second to last story. We've got one more before that. The melody converter for BLHeli32 and Bluejay.
Oh, did I skip? I skipped one.
Yeah.
Sorry. We'll do it in order. That's what I get.
We've shown a project like this before, but this one's a much more advanced one. This is a melody converter, and interestingly, I believe the first melody converter was by Bastian Sonderman. This is by someone named Bastian Springer, who's created basically a sound converter. So if you've got Bluejay sounds or BLHeli32 sounds, you can transpose, change octaves, transfer between each other, and then he's got a couple presets in here that he has, or you can save your own songs in there if you'd like.
Interesting. You can pick a preset. You can play with it. You could write music here is what you could also do, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's pretty cool. I've got a link to that in the video description. And then.
Yeah, and then our last video we want to talk about is there's a video going around for anybody who knows how drones work. It's pretty obviously fake. But for anybody who is just confused or maybe has been shared this anyway, just so you know, this is obviously not a real video.
Well, I mean, even if you weren't intelligent enough to do the math and know that those drones make about 4 to 6 kilograms of thrust, and that is not enough to lift a person in the air, the props aren't spinning.
Yeah.
Like, the props aren't even spinning. They just are throwing some papers around. Like, the props aren't spinning. It's fake.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a shocking number of people when this got posted on a couple communities on Facebook seemed to ignore the fact that it was fake and discuss other aspects of the video.
Right. Okay. We know what it looks like when a multi-rotor carries a human from the Green Goblin guy. It's a lot bigger than that. It's not 5 inches.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's our little public service. We got a super chat. Thank you, Isaac Mitchell, for a $2 super chat. You know, I feel bad, Blunty, because you know we did our contractual obligation and we plugged our sponsor. But I feel like I also need to plug you. You know, you're also a sponsor of this show in that you participate in the show.
I guess that is true.
I want to tell people that if they need help troubleshooting their quads, they can go to itsblunty.com and they can get on a call with you. You'll get on a call with people for a very reasonable hourly rate and help them solve their problems. So if somebody wants that, they should totally do it.
Yeah, let me know.
Whoa, Phantom FPV, good to see you, man. Always good when you show up. And that's at itsblunty.com. I don't even want to do my plugs. I feel like I'm good. I'm good. I got that keto chow money. I don't even need. I'm just going to retire on that keto chow money. Okay. Alrighty, folks, that's going to do it. That's going to bring us to the end of the stream. You got any rants? You got any rants in the? I mean, we're about 10 minutes early. You want to just talk about keto chow for 10 more minutes?
Yeah, I don't think we have anything offhand. I think we talked about the battery stuff earlier. That was the only thing we could probably ramble about. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to make sure we get an hour of content next week, submit to news@fpvknowitall.com with anything you think is newsworthy, even if you're sure we must already know about it. We probably don't.
I just say it one more time. It is on the screen. Almost all of every episode.
For sure.
All right.
All righty, guys. That's going to do it. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Later,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.